Auburn has to hit the reset button ahead of the NCAA tournament, and Bruce Pearl is panicked.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your hosts. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Shade, back at our respective homes, no longer hanging out together in Dallas as part of the bracket breakdown, although we will be back the next couple of weekends. More on that in a second. But you are joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. We are recording every day in the month of March up until that national championship game in early April. Want to thank all of you who have made this show your first listen or your first watch of the day, and a special shout out to the everyday listeners who have been with us throughout the season, throughout the off season, even into previous seasons. We very much appreciate all of you and those of you hanging out with us in the Locked On College Basketball Discord channel. Reminder to everybody, you can listen to the show ad-free on Amazon Music, and today's show is brought to you by Nissan. Today's episode brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later in the episode. Well, Isaac, we had an absolute blast over the weekend, Sunday and Monday, in Dallas, Texas, together at the WFAA studios, recording live reactions, or not live reactions, but reactions after Selection Sunday to talk about this bracket, break it all down. We had some incredible folks with us: Kylan Mills, Tanitra Batista, Monique Billings, Gordon Hayward was with us on Monday. An incredibly fun opportunity for us to talk about this bracket. Is on Amazon Fire TV. If you have a Fire TV stick at home, go check it out. Incredibly fun stuff that we got to do, and we're getting to do it next weekend, the weekend after that. I'm really, really excited about all of these opportunities. But for today's show, we're breaking down the left side of the bracket. We're talking the South region, the West region. We'll talk about the right side of the bracket tomorrow. We're going to talk about some of the West Virginia craziness. If you guys haven't heard about that, we'll talk about what's going on in West Virginia. They are not happy that they did not get a bid in the NCAA tournament. We're going to talk about the NIT not helping themselves, not doing any favors for a tournament that is already in a bit of disarray. We got a little primer on the play-in games tonight as well. But Isaac, let's start talking South region. Our number one seed here, the Auburn Tigers, taking on the winner of Alabama State and St. Francis, who are a play-in games from the SWAC and the NEC. That game is Tuesday night, 6:40 Eastern time on True TV. Made a little joke in the cold open about Bruce Pearl and Auburn, because Bruce Pearl is very much not actually panicking, despite the Tigers losing 3 of their last 4 games coming into the NCAA tournament. Not a great precedence for struggling right before the big dance, but this Auburn team was so dominant all season long. I can understand why Bruce Pearl is not exactly panicking regarding their team at this point, just because of how great they were all year long, and the fact that their losses were to, really, really, really good teams in the SEC.
Yeah, Andy, I like, he was on one in that press conference when I don't even remember who it was that asked him, but he was like ready. He was like, yeah, I'm glad you asked me about that. Yeah, we're so panicked. Like, it was. Yeah, he was curious. But Andy, I think there's some legitimacy to it. And I say this as somebody who has picked Auburn as my national champion. I say this as somebody who has been all in on Auburn all season long, right? Like, I think they can hit the reset button, but we need to see it. We're not going to learn anything in their first game against the winner of the Alabama State St. Francis game, right? Like, we recognize that. Although, Virginia and Purdue say hello, I will recognize that. But that said, it's not going to happen, Andy. And so really what we're looking forward to is hopefully a second round matchup with either Louisville or Creighton. But Andy, that is the 8-9 game here as we work our way down the bracket a little bit. Andy, let me ask you this question about Louisville. When you look at the AP poll for this week, and, in the top 10, we've got a whole bunch of 1 seeds and 2 seeds, etc. And we've got an 8th seeded Louisville Cardinal team. Is this the team that the selection committee whiffed on more than any other in terms of seeding from where they probably should be to where they actually are?
Yeah, I think Louisville might be the biggest miss. And it's funny because I think some of the other teams in that conversation are also around that 8-9 line. Gonzaga being an 8 seed is a team that a lot of people were surprised by. I thought their metrics would get them up in the 6-7 seed range. And for me, I also think Memphis was overseeded. I was a little surprised to see the Tigers get a 5 seed. I think they were probably more of a 7 seed. I wouldn't have been, I think 6 is okay for Memphis. But I saw some people commenting like maybe Louisville and Memphis just got flipped. And honestly, yeah, I think that would be more accurate. Louisville is a 5 seed, Memphis is an 8 seed, would have felt more appropriate to me. And what I hate about this for Louisville is there's going to be this narrative that they were underseeded, and I don't know that Creighton's necessarily underseeded. Like, I think there's maybe an argument for them as an 8 or maybe even a 7. They're not like criminally underseeded,
Sure.
But Creighton's a better team than the seed line because they just underperformed. And Creighton could very much beat Louisville. I think Louisville does not, very few teams match up well with Ryan Kalkbrenner. Louisville does not have that kind of interior post presence to really handle him. And if Creighton wins this game, which I think is very possible, that's going to kind of push some backlash on the Louisville narrative of like, oh, they weren't underseeded, they lost. And that's just not really very fair. That's not using those results. We'll talk about that more with like North Carolina, San Diego State. If North Carolina wins 2 games, it doesn't mean that the process was right necessarily. And I think with Louisville, it's like if they lose to Creighton, it doesn't mean that the process was right either. So yeah, unfortunate for both these teams. Unfortunate that even if whoever does win will have an incredibly difficult task against Auburn, but it does set up a chance for us to make Bruce Pearl's team prove it, because they did struggle at the end of the year, and their second game is going to be against a very good team. And if they go out and stomp that team on their way to the Sweet 16, then those narratives about Auburn are going to be very quiet after that.
And Andy, here's the other thing. Not only is it's not fair to Louisville and Clemson, it's all when teams are inappropriately seeded or inaccurately seeded, it's also unfair to whoever they'll play in the next round. The example I always go back to is that 1 seed Illinois team with Ayo Dosunmu having to go up against Loyola Chicago, who was criminally underseeded as 8 or 9. I can't remember which it was. And that was a Sunday morning during COVID. I completely remember that game. And Loyola won that game, right? Troutwig, isn't it? I can't remember. I'm trying to pull that. But anyway, that's all part of this. Andy, quickly, Louisville or Creighton? Who you got in that one?
I think I'm going to take Creighton. I just think Ryan Kalkbrenner is too much of a problem for Louisville to handle. I feel bad because I thought Louisville had a good run in them this year, but they just did not get a seed that's very conducive to that.
Yeah. All that said, congratulations to Pat Kelsey, man. What a turnaround for this program, regardless of how that plays out. Let's move on down the bracket, Andy, where the next 2 games on the top half are the number 5 seed Michigan Wolverines against 12 UC San Diego. We always talk about these 5-12s. And then number 4, Texas A&M. And funny, Wade Taylor the 4th has a 4 seed. I guess that's just fun for me, against number 13 Yale. Andy, with Michigan, they might feel also a little bit underseeded, maybe not as criminally so as Louisville, but do you look at this and say the selection committee evidently did not take into account the fact that this team won the Big Ten tournament, or are some people just putting more importance on that win than the committee was?
Yeah, I'm honestly, I can kind of see both sides. I feel like in a vacuum of like the whole look at Michigan's resume of 5 seeds, not terrible, but I would be upset as a Michigan fan to see Wisconsin with a 3 seed. Like, I think that's reasonable. And Purdue as a 4, like a bunch of Big Ten teams, all the Big Ten teams were between 2 and 7s, and most of them were between 4 and 7s, if I remember right. So like everybody's kind of bunched together. So there's not a huge discrepancy between these teams. But yeah, I think if you're a Michigan fan, you're like, well, we won that conference tournament. Does that not mean anything? And this is a conversation that happens every single year. And every year we kind of hope or expect that, hey, the committee's going to take that into account. And it never seems like they do. And I think there being a 2 seed line difference between Michigan and Wisconsin when that game finished up just, mere hours before the selection committee was, put together the bracket, I can understand the frustration there. Again, I think 5 is not terrible for Michigan, but I wouldn't be happy being behind Purdue and Wisconsin and some of those other teams that you beat on your way to a conference tournament championship.
Well, it's funny, Andy, because in a world where Yale and Michigan both win these games, Danny Wolf would play his former team that knocked off. And here's what's wild. Yale, Michigan, the winner, if that happened, would go on to probably play Auburn, whom Yale knocked out with Danny Wolf last year. Man, we got some just full circle stuff here in the top half of the South region. Andy, let me ask you this to put a bow on these 2 games. UC San Diego over Michigan, Yale over A&M. Which one is more likely to you to happen? Which upset?
I think Yale over A&M because I just have a hard time seeing UC San Diego compete with the size of Michigan. The Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden front court is just so dominant. And while I think that Michigan's guard play will eventually cause them some trouble in this tournament, I think that their ability to beat teams that just don't have the size of them is they're going to be able to do that. Vlad Golden's an absolute monster, and against teams that are not able to match up with them, I think they roll. Whereas with A&M and Yale, A&M's a team that can go really cold offensively. They're a great rebounding team, but Yale is tough. They're physical. They beat as a 13 seed, they beat a 4-seeded SEC team literally last year. Same coach, a lot of the same players. They can absolutely do it again. I think I'm confident enough to actually put Yale in my bracket as a 13-4 upset here over A&M. Having said that, A&M is also the kind of team where when they are on, they can beat every single team in the country. They're a tough team to pin down. I like Yale in this one. As much as I love the UC San Diego storyline this year, I don't think this is a good matchup for them against Michigan.
I think that's the thing. People get so hyped up on upsets and doing it, but we got to look at the matchups, and that's critical there. A&M coming off a 2 OT loss to the Longhorns in the SEC tournament. Andy, we got to fly through this thing. So let me go to the bottom half of the South bracket. We got number 6 Ole Miss against the winner of the San Diego State North Carolina game in the 6-11. We'll preview that playing game later on in the show. We've got number 3 Iowa State against 14 Lipscomb, number 7 Marquette against 10 New Mexico, and then at the bottom Michigan State against 15 seed Bryant. Andy, with all due respect to Michigan State and Bryant, where 15s over 2s can happen, I think it's the other 3 matchups up here that are more intriguing. For me, Andy, I'll just quickly buzz through a couple things. Marquette, New Mexico is my favorite first-round matchup in this region. I love the Cam Jones, Donovan Dent matchup. That should be a lot of fun, whether or not they're guarding each other. It is 2 great backcourt players. Iowa State, Lipscomb, here's what's interesting to me about this. While teams are typically cagey about injury issues, the bracket's revealed, and TJ Otzelberger comes out on Sunday and is like, hey, Sean Gilbert, he's done muscle strain. He ain't coming back for us. I was shocked by that. And then, Andy, the question we always get is, we've talked about it, in 12 of the 13 seasons that we've had the play-in, one of the play-in teams has won at least a second game, right? And so we'll talk Texas and Xavier matchup tomorrow's show, but can San Diego State or North Carolina be that team to win this game, beat Ole Miss, and then potentially play an Iowa State team that is without Sean Gilbert, unless Lipscomb upsets them first? Andy, that's a lot. Where do you want to go with it? Yeah, tons of different stuff here. I think I'm in agreement that Marquette, New Mexico is my favorite first-round game. It's very close between that and Louisville, Creighton. I think those are 2 really, really fun games. And obviously I mentioned A&M and Yale as the game I'm intrigued by as well. But Marquette, New Mexico, I mean, again, like you said, Cam Jones, Donovan Dent is going to be so fun, but I'm also very interested. Nelly Jr. Joseph is a fantastic front court player. Marquette, the front court has been a question mark for Shaka Smart's team this year. Not a great rebounding team. They have a lot of guys who like to shoot threes. They don't have a low post scorer like Oso Ighodaro last year. I could see Nelly Jr. Joseph causing problems for Marquette. And if Donovan Dent has a huge game for New Mexico, I could see that being a potential upset there. Marquette and St. John's had a lot of great battles this year, and I'm sure Marquette would love to at least get a W over Rick Pitino's son, Richard, in this 7-10 matchup, and a chance to go square off against Michigan State. But that's the one that really intrigues me here. With all due respect to these other games, which I think is also, this is a really fun region and a lot of good games here. Oh, man, absolutely. Andy, what ultimately is your Elite 8 matchup coming out of this thing? Yeah, I think who wins that? People are going to be bored by the fact that most of my Elite 8 matchups are like 1-2s or 1-3s. There's a lot of dominance at the top of college basketball this year. I have Auburn and Michigan State in this one. I will tell you, though, that I do have Michigan State winning that game. And I'm I'm unsure on the Spartans, but I'm not unsure about Tom Izzo. That's for sure. And while I'm more confident about Auburn's roster, we haven't seen Auburn put together a deep run. We've seen them fail a fair amount of times recently in the NCAA tournament. And while getting to the Elite 8 and losing to a number 2 seed is not exactly a huge failure for this Auburn team in particular, for how dominant they were in the regular season, anything short of a national championship appearance or at least the Final Four, I think has to be considered a disappointment for Bruce Pearl's team. Meanwhile, I think Michigan State, the way that they've played lately, that there's just so much balance on that roster. Jase Richardson has exploded in his talent level. The last time Michigan State made a run to a national championship game, Jase's father, Jason Richardson, was a freshman under Tom Izzo at Michigan State. Perhaps we will see that happen again. I think the Spartans are the team advancing out of this region. Yeah, Andy, I had initially, even with the Sean Gilbert news, I had been on Iowa State to be in the Elite Eight against Auburn, but I've since rethought that because of the lingering stuff with Taman Lipsey, with like, can Curtis Jones carry the load for Iowa State? And so I'm going to have to flip to Michigan State on this as well. Yeah, I'm going chalk, but I am going to take Auburn to win that matchup. Andy, one last word, just a name and a team. Who for you is the new household name that everyone's going to know coming out of this region?
I mean, I think I'm going to go with Donovan Dent, and I think more people should know his name already, but I think a lot of folks don't. And Donovan Dent is one of the best guards in college basketball. And even just looking in this region, I mean, you got Chucky Hepburn at Louisville, and you got Cam Jones at Marquette, and those two guys are considered All-American candidates. But Donovan Dent is right there with those guys, and I think he's going to, especially if they upset Marquette, he's going to put himself on the map because he's a tremendous player.
I was going to go with Chucky Hepburn. So since you said him, I will say Jase Richardson as well. I know you already mentioned his name, but I love that he's kind of the leader for this Michigan State squad and what we're looking for there. Andy, we got to go to the bottom half of the bracket because we have talked forever about this top half of the left region. And so we're going to go on to the West, where Florida and St. John's are two of the hottest teams in the nation coming into this NCAA tournament. Are they going to square off in the Elite Eight, or is somebody going to be an interloper and cause some issues? We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Nissan, the Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our good friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our locked-on college basketball experts, who is us, by the way, are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to the unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut Team of the Week is the Florida Gators. The Gators, led by Walter Clayton, 17 points a game, just dominated the SEC tournament, winning each game by at least 9 points. That's insane. Not only did Florida grab the 4th 1 seed, but they're the nation's most efficient offense per KenPom. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Florida Gators have done. It's clear that our Team of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. So take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop it all at nissanusa.com.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Fabric. Folks, life moves fast, especially when you have a family. And one day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. And that's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You can be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. As a parent, I want to make sure that my family is financially protected no matter what happens, and Fabric gives me that peace of mind. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day, so protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Fabric also offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. All right, Isaac, moving down to the West region, got another slate of fantastic games here taking place. We're going to go through them here quickly, talk about our favorite matchups and some of the other superlatives. Also, an incredible slate of coaches in the West region. We'll get to that here. We start with Florida, number 1 seeded Gators taking on the 16 seed Norfolk State. And then we got an incredible 8-9 matchup. 8-seeded UConn Huskies, the back-to-back defending champs, got a much trickier path to get back into that conversation this year as an 8-seed, taking on 9-seeded Oklahoma. Porter Moser's team, the Sooners, coming out of the SEC. Really fun 5-12 matchup here between Memphis, Penny Hardaway, and the Tigers, taking on a 12-seeded Colorado State Rams team that just exploded in the last two to 3 weeks of the season. 4-seeded Maryland taking on 13-seeded Grand Canyon. 6-seeded Mizzou, shout out Dennis Gates, coming off of a winless season in the SEC, getting the 6th seed this year, taking on Drake. 11-seeded Bulldogs, who won 30 games this year with a new coach, Ben McCollum. And you got 3-seed Texas Tech taking on 14-seeded UNC Wilmington. And then a 7-seeded Kansas taking on 10-seeded Arkansas. Bill Self, John Calipari. Doesn't get much better than that, except that the winner of that game likely takes on Rick Pitino and the 2-seeded St. John's after they are playing the 15-seeded Omaha team that is making the tournament for the first time. Isaac, there is a ton we could get to today. What is your favorite matchup here in this West region?
Why are you making me pick? I love so many of them. Like, legitimately, Andy, as I look down this roster, there's a bunch I like. I think the one I'm going to have to go with, I was tempted on by Memphis, Colorado State, but I'm going to go with Missouri and Drake. And here's why. For those who are unaware about Drake, their head coach, Ben McCollum, is a D2 coach who got a chance, right? I think for a long time, D1 schools have been hesitant or reticent to go with D2 coaches. They usually look to like assistants or something like that. But I love that Drake took a chance on him after Darren DeVries goes to West Virginia. And I love that he brings Bennett Sturtz with him from the D2 level. And this dude suddenly like blows up in the Missouri Valley Conference. Like, it's great stuff. They play Missouri, a team that I think's got some good talent. And Caleb Grill and Tamar Bates and Tony Perkins, all these dudes. I love the turnaround for them after going winless in the SEC last year. But Mizzou's kind of struggled down the stretch here a little bit. Andy, the question is that hashtag SEC, or is that just they've hit the skids a little bit? I don't know the answer to that, but I think Drake, a 30-win team, folks, is more than capable of winning this game. So I'm very excited to see how that matchup goes. What about you?
Love seeing when D2 coaches have success. Coming up the D1 level. Cal Poly, a team that's been in the cellar of the Big West for many years. They hired a D2 coach from Colorado Mesa. They immediately had a lot of success, nearly took down UC Irvine in the Big West tournament. I have a feeling everybody listening is like, why on earth are we talking about Cal Poly in an NCAA tournament projection show? Apologies. We'll move on. It is a fun story, though, with those D2 coaches coming up. I was also really tempted by Memphis, Colorado State, and I feel bad not going there, but I feel like we have to talk about Kansas, Arkansas. I mean, this is just an insane matchup. Bill Self, John Calipari, two powerhouse programs. Obviously, the Arkansas narrative this year with a Boogie Fland injury, and the team kind of got better after he got hurt, and then they missed a Duke Thiero for a while. Now Boogie Fland is expected to be back. How is that going to mess with the team chemistry? Is there going to be problems there? Are they going to the ball dominance of John L. Davis is kind of what helped this team get a little bit better. Now with Fland, like, how is that going to work? And then a Kansas team who's struggled 2 straight years. Really, I mean, the Hunter Dickinson era just hasn't been good for the Jayhawks. And we kind of thought, with him coming back, with them adding AJ Storr and Zeke Mayo and Riley Griffin and others to the roster, that this team would kind of pop and once again kind of reclaim the top status in the Big 12. Instead, they finished 7th in the conference and find themselves on a 7 line here in the NCAA tournament. So I'm really interested to see which of these teams that are kind of in a very different situations right now, but not where they want to be. Which of these teams can get themselves a matchup against, again, likely St. John's in the second round. And the Johnnies, of course, one of the hottest teams coming into the NCAA tournament. That year 2 Rick Pitino magic has made its way to Manhattan, and it's going to be really fun to see whichever of these two teams ends up, again, likely facing the Johnnies in the round of 32. And
I love that Omaha coach Chris Crutchfield is probably like, let's go have breakfast with the guys in my quad. And it's me, John Calipari, Rick Pitino, and Bill Self, right? Like, hey, guys, amongst us, we got 5 national championships, right? And something else I realized, you know where these games are being played? These two? Providence. Isn't that crazy?
Ooh, yes.
Like, so that's just a fun thing for Rick Pitino folks who coach there. Love all that. Andy, same question from last time. Who is the household name coming out of this region? We already mentioned Bennett Sturtz. I think that's one that we want people to know. Anybody else that everybody needs to know here?
Yeah, it's easy. Nick Clifford.
Boom.
Nick Clifford is the name that folks need to know here. He's on Colorado State, Nico Medved's club. He is a tremendous talent. He was an NBA prospect last year, decided to return to Colorado State. There's a lot of guys that I think returned to school last year that didn't do much to help their draft stock. In fact, 13 seed Grand Canyon, Tyon Grant Foster is a very notable name in that conversation, but Nick Clifford did. He came back. He dominated all year long, especially in the last 3 weeks when Colorado State rattled off 10 in a row. They win the Mountain West Conference championship over Boise State. They finished 2nd in the regular season. Nick Clifford is a versatile do-it-all player. I think he's going to go in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes top 20 in this NBA draft, despite being an older prospect. I don't think he's going to go directly across from PJ Haggerty necessarily in this this game, but those are two players that I'm going to have an absolute blast watching them square off against each other in this 5-12 matchup. There's a ton of great players in this region. JT Toppin comes to mind. You mentioned Bennett Sturts, certainly Liam McNeely at UConn, etc. But I'm really excited to see Neat Clifford in Colorado State.
Yeah, I was with you. I think PJ Haggerty is going to be really important, especially if Tyrese Hunter is still in a boot, unable to go for Penny's team. Andy, I love your JT Toppin call, folks. And Texas Tech is if they're healthy with Chance McMillan and Darion Williams, watch out for this Texas Tech team. Could give St. John's a lot of problems there. For me, the player I'm going to go with is Derek Queen. We haven't talked about Maryland yet, but folks, if you have not seen this uber strong freshman as part of the Crab Five, which is what Maryland calls their starters, Derek Queen is a joy and a treat to watch in the middle. So check him out for this team. Andy, who's your Elite Eight matchup? Who's ultimately moving on?
Yeah, I think Florida's just so hot right now. It's really hard to go against Florida.
Kind of like Hansel.
Yes, just like Hansel. I think St. John's is also a team to watch here. I think that is the matchup there is St. John's and Florida. I would not be shocked if it's Florida versus Texas Tech either. Again, especially health permitting for Texas Tech. I think they can. They have the offensive and defensive capabilities to get past St. John's, which also just made me realize we could get a Zuby Ejiofor versus JT Toppin matchup in the front court, and that is incredibly fun. I really hope we do get to see those two teams square off. But I think either way, Florida rolls. They're so dynamic. Their front court has started playing as well as their back court lately. Walter Clayton's one of the best guards in the country. I think this Florida team has the perfect recipe to make a legitimate Final Four national championship run, maybe even take the whole thing home.
They absolutely can. I have them in my Final Four, but Look, I haven't submitted anything official anywhere yet. Give me Maryland and Texas Tech in the Elite Eight with the Red Raiders moving on. Why not? Let's get a little bit crazy here with that. Andy, North Carolina, San Diego State facing off tonight in the second game of the play-ins of this whole thing. And by the way, West Virginia's governor is not happy at all that his team is going to be not only watching that game. Honestly, I didn't think they should be watching, or I thought they should be watching that game anyway, Andy, because they were safely in the field and not even in Dayton. Anyway. He's got some crazy plans about what's going to happen and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Upwork, scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. So whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with the freelance expert who delivers incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The NCAA Tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA Tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Andy, I'm assuming anybody who's watching this show knows about this crazy storyline, but North Carolina, very controversially, last team in the field. But I think maybe, and that's the thing that people are talking about, because like, why are they in quad ones and all that stuff? But, predictive and resume metrics. Anyway, Andy, for me, the bigger issue is West Virginia being left out.
Yeah.
I thought not only were they in, I didn't even think they should have been in Dayton. I think their resume was strong enough that they should have been like last four buys. But that said, I would not go to the lengths to call this collusion or to start the whole thing. What on earth is happening in the state of West Virginia right now, where the Mountaineer faithful are up in arms?
Yeah, first of all, I'm with you 100%. I think the North Carolina, Xavier, etc., like the arguments about them being in, fine, like their resumes were not great, but it's more about who didn't make it. And the fact that there is a pretty obvious snub, I think, makes a lot of this feel worse. West Virginia should have been in this field. And so Governor Patrick Morrissey is the governor of West Virginia. He is unhappy And he made it incredibly clear that he is unhappy. He held a press conference on his podium in front of him on this press conference. It said National Corrupt Athletic Association. That is about as direct of a message as you can send the NCAA as humanly possible. He said he described the decision to leave out West Virginia as a miscarriage of justice, and he is imploring the state attorney general, John McCuskey, to open an investigation into the selection committee to find out if they made any backdoor deals. Folks, this is very directly attacking the fact that North Carolina made the field. What I'm curious about is whether this would have come up if it was Indiana instead of North Carolina. Or even, I mean, again, anybody else, Ohio State, Boise State, somebody like that. But I think the fact that it was North Carolina, that the committee chair is the North Carolina athletic director, Bubba Cunningham. Yes, we know he was out of the room when they discussed North Carolina, but obviously people, they're still human and they still know he's in charge of the committee chair. Like there's still an element of this. Whether it was actual direct corruption collusion, I think is extremely, capital E, extremely unlikely. But was there a human element that caused people to favor North Carolina? Again, outside of the quad one resume, the quad one record, their resume is not horrendous. It's really not that egregious, but West Virginia not being in is fairly egregious. So I do think there's an argument that West Virginia should feel pretty slighted by this, but going after the NCAA is probably not going to work. It's probably not going to help their argument, but it sure makes for some fun drama the days leading up to the start of the big dance, right?
It sure does. I mean, this is, and the fact that it's the state of West Virginia, which all due respect to this, like, I think my dad grew up in the state of Pennsylvania. And so it's like West Virginia is the state they make jokes about. So maybe I've just got an inherent bias against West Virginia. It's actually a beautiful state, right? But just the fact that it's West Virginia is hilarious. Andy, yeah, like I hate it for West Virginia. Yeah. But what are we doing here? Come on, man. I mean, content wise, we love it because we get to laugh at it. But Andy, I actually kind of have a bigger issue with Xavier than North Carolina because I think a lot of people aren't pointing out Xavier only has one quad one win as well, and then their other numbers are much worse than Carolina's, and so that's the bigger issue for me is the fact that Xavier is also in, and they were in above North Carolina, right? So that's a bigger issue for me with this whole thing. But Andy, what I think this brings up is a larger conversation that we should have, not right now, but this offseason, that I think this whole situation has brought to light about the fact that the entire selection committee is made up of ADs and conference commissioners. At some point in the line, because I love your point about while there might not be direct collusion, there might be indirect, like inherent bias things built in because of the humanity of it. And so if we had independent people or college basketball media or whomever it was, there isn't that potential for accused impropriety, right? Yeah. But that's what you set yourself up for with the committee full of conference commissioners and ADs.
Right. And I think there's a lot of intrigue there, too, of like, oh, do we go with media members? And it's like, OK, like, let's say I just throw out a media member who pops in my head, Sean Farnham. So Sean Farnham's on the selection committee. He went to UCLA. So if UCLA gets a 5 seed when everybody thought they deserved an 8 seed, is he going to get some crap for that, too? And obviously, Bubba Cunningham makes legitimate money from North Carolina making the tournament. Sean Farnham does not get money for UCLA making the tournament. So there is a very significant difference there. But yeah, it is an interesting question of like, at what point people are always going to be mad about, as long as humans are picking this, people are going to be mad. I think that is true, but there are probably ways to make it seem less sketchy. And I think it's fair to be sketched out by the fact that a seemingly undeserving North Carolina team made the tournament when their AD was this. I mean, again, that is, if you were to be colluding, this is kind of what it would look like. Again, I don't think it's happening, but I can understand why the conversation is happening. I want to talk quickly, moving to the NIT very briefly here. A story that came up again for those who haven't been following this. College basketball has decided to make as many different postseason tournaments as possible. Everybody only watches the NCAA tournament, but for some reason they thought we need more of these. And so the NIT has been a little bit panicky as we have the college basketball crown now in Las Vegas, things of that nature. And the NIT themselves, absolutely no favors. If you missed this story, the NIT extended an invite to South Alabama to join the tournament after they got a rejection from UC Riverside. South Alabama asked for confirmation, said, yes, you're in, you're going to make the field. They tell the team, they make an announcement about it. UC Riverside decides, yes, we are going to actually do it. And the NIT, instead of telling UC Riverside, hey, sorry, you missed your chance, they go back to South Alabama and say, hey, sorry, we're rescinding your offer. After they told the players, after they'd announced it, they were pissed. They were pissed. They made us all sorts of stink about it. And Isaac, they should be.
Yeah, absolutely, Andy. This is absurd to me. Like, if you, like, I get it. If South Alabama jumps the gun, that's on them.
Yeah.
But this is a team that had confirmed, like,
yeah.
we're good, we're in. Like, at that point, you cannot do this, right? It is a bad. I mean, the NIT is in such bad shape. I hate the crown. I don't know why that's a thing that Fox is trying to push on us, but whatever. But for the NIT, man, you're trying to keep things going. You're trying to keep hope alive. I love the move to Hinkle Fieldhouse last year for the Final Four for this, but man, NIT, you have an issue already. You cannot pile PR issues on top of all this. Got to do better. Andy, we got play-in games starting tonight for the NCAA tournament. The first one, you mentioned it earlier, Alabama State and St. Francis for the South bracket 16 seed. The winner will take on Auburn in Rupp on Thursday. That's pretty fun. And while this is like a whatever game, a reminder. The winner of this game gets an NCAA tournament credit, which means literal millions for your conference. Yeah. So while it's like, oh man, these poor 16 seeds, it's the best chance they're going to have to win an NCAA tournament game and get money for their school and their conference. So that's actually good. The second game is the one that probably most people will be locked in on. San Diego State against the controversial Tar Heels we've just been talking about. This is the South bracket 11 seed, the winner to play Ole Miss on Friday in Milwaukee, which is nice for the winner. It's about a 6-hour drive from Dayton. Andy, Alabama State, St. Francis, that'll be fun. Who are you taking in this game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean San Diego State. I think North Carolina's been playing a lot better as of late, but San Diego State is a team. I think Magoon Gwath has a huge potential hinge in this game for his health. He's a shot blocker. Freshman, 2.5 blocks per game as a freshman, long, rangy. North Carolina doesn't have a lot of front court presence. Ven-Allen Lubin has played much better as of late on a torrid streak. So to me, those two are the biggest X factors. If Ven-Allen Lubin can dominate like he did in the ACC tournament, that's going to put San Diego State on their heels in a major way. Whereas if Gwath can kind of neutralize him and score around the rim against the lack of rim protection for this North Carolina team, then I could very much see San Diego State winning this game. That's not to say that, RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau and Nick Boyd and Miles Bird and those guys aren't going to have a big impact on this game as well. But I'm really looking towards that kind of front court matchup to see how this one plays out.
Yeah. Put the Aztecs on their what, Andy? Do you remember what you just said?
Put them on the what?
You said they're going to put them on their heels, is what you said.
Yes, put them on their car heels.
There we go. We got FanDuel has this game, North Carolina by 5.5. That line has moved by 2 points since it started. It was Carolina by 3.5 when it started. And so I wonder if that's an indicator. Like Coach Dutcher has said that Gwath is fully available, but does that mean he starts? Does that mean he comes off the bench, right? Like fully available is interesting to me, so we'll watch that. But yeah, man, if he's a major factor in this game, that could spell trouble for an undersized Carolina team. This is also a game of pace and physicality, Andy. Whichever team can control the pace, I think is your winner. That's what I'm watching for. Ultimately, I'm going to take the Tar Heels to win by 3. So win, but not cover. Andy, going to be a fun night to get the NCAA tournament rolling. Tomorrow, as Andy said, we're going to have the right side of the bracket, plus reactions from those games tonight, and look ahead to Wednesday nights playing games, including Xavier and Texas.
So excited to continue to do this. And folks, check out the bracket breakdown if you have not done so yet. If you have an Amazon Fire TV, plug it in. You'll see it right on the front page. It's incredibly fun. We had an absolute blast doing a whole breakdown on every single thing you need to know about the NCAA tournament bracket. Again, Isaac and I will be back in Dallas next weekend, recapping all of the first round games, looking ahead towards the Sweet 16 and beyond. So check that out there as well. But that is going to wrap it up for us today. Like Isaac said, we'll be back with the rest of the bracket on Wednesday's show. And then, of course, getting you ready for the actual games as they get started on Thursday morning. At least the non-play-in versions of these games get started on Thursday. So excited to have the big dance coming our way. That's going to do it for us today, though, again. So we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. We'll get to Purdue a little bit later. Let's go Wild Popes. Also didn't get to Kentucky or UCLA, but cheers anyway to the Mick Bruins. And until Wednesday, peace out.